think he broke his neck.
Yeah, I think Roger Goodell, the Combine's going to be phenomenal. By the way, the Combine's probably going to have ratings higher than just about every NBA game. Let's be honest. Definitely more than the NHL. And we go on and on about that, but it's all true. And that's what the NFL is. We talked about the fact that, hey, look, the salary cap just went up $22 million, $53 million in 2 years. These are all the numbers because of the fact that the NFL is what they are. There's a problem out there, though, John, with the NFL. And here's where the problem really starts. I think that Goodell has got to get together with the owners and make some changes in what they're doing. Now, every year they always get together. They always come back with something. You know what they came back with this year? It was that kickoff, the kickoff from the USFL, right? That was sort of interesting, but it's something that most of us didn't like. Most of us don't understand. Most of us think it's the most boring play of the game. So why would they continue to keep this going? I know it's for health reasons. Change how you do it. Maybe they have to tweak it, John, I think in a big way, not just a little way. They need to tweak this thing. If it's because players are running downfield, hey, they run downfield for a long period of time on punts because most of these punters can kick the ball 55, 60 yards in the air. If you're able to do that, John, these guys are running a long distance before the major collisions go. So they've got to move things around and do it and make it a little bit more palatable, in my opinion. I think that the other thing would be the tush push. We got to get rid of this. You remember forever, John, it was one of those things where, hey, you cannot help one of your own players get to the next level, right? Well, all of a sudden it's okay. And these guys are totally fine with it. I think it's a BS kind of a play. I don't like it at all. I know. And think about the potential injuries there. Everybody knows exactly what's going on when they get into position for the tush push. And all of a sudden, we saw it during the Super Bowl, as a matter of fact, some guys walking out of there with some sore necks. Well, why is that? That seems like an injury problem to me when you're absolutely going after them with all these big, huge monsters trying to push people forward and push your quarterback into the end zone. I think the last one would be this. When is the NFL going to pull their head out of their you-know-what and figure out that, every team should always have 3 quarterbacks suited up and ready to play? Why do we always have to have, this guy's going to be off to the side and the practice squad's off to the side? I think they need to have 3 quarterbacks live for every single game. And I don't understand why. I don't think that the practice squad guys have to play during the game. But if there are injuries, I think they should be able to play during the game. So why not put them in uniform? I don't understand that. So those are my 3 fixes, because I think this kickoff thing, John, really could at some point be something that could blow up a little bit, at least on some of the ratings that they get on TV, because people are absolutely bored to death with that whole thing.
Yep. First one you named, the kickoff, absolutely do away with that stupid thing. Second thing, the punt, that is where the guys are full speed. Literally, except for those 2, what do they call them, Pete?
Gunners?
The guys, what's that?
Gunner?
Oh, the gunners, yeah. Except for the gunners that are lined up and they have a defender against them, sometimes 2. Everybody else is just a free ride downfield, full speed. So, those collisions are ugly. Second thing that you were talking about, Pete, I think the tush push is stupid. Yep. And you're going to see a quarterback or 2 get hurt too. It's not just going to be defensive linemen. It's going to be quarterbacks. And when that happens, that's when Goodell finally pull his head out, Pete. Because like you say, Bart Starr didn't need the tush push to get across versus Dallas in that first Super Bowl. And I don't like the idea of this one either. So I agree with both of those. I told you I'd have some NFL things, Pete, for you. My sunglasses. Some NFL things for you. There's an interesting thing. The top 4 linebackers coming into the combine, Pete. I looked at this and I said, okay, who are they? Well, basically, Demetrius Knight, South Carolina, Jihad Campbell, I love the name, from Alabama, Carson Schwinsinger from UCLA, and Jalen Walker, Georgia. These are all great players, but you know what they are, Pete? Strong safeties.
Right.
They're not linebackers. I know they play linebackers, and I'm not trying to denigrate their abilities, but if you put these guys up against Shaquan Barkley and some of these great running backs, they will get run over.
Yep.
Because they're not big enough at 6'2" and their size, Pete. They are not big enough. They're fast.
Yep.
They're going to put up some impressive numbers at the combine, but they're not going to be able to stop somebody. They're not going to be able to get in front of a guard unless they play 50 Matador or whatever, Pete, where it's like, ole! And you jump to the side. That guard is going to just pound these guys when he's pulling around the corner and that linebacker's coming out there to make the tackle. Ain't happening.
Right.
The guy might be fast enough to cheat and try to cut off that guard's backside and get the guy from behind. But if that doesn't work, you're looking at, 20, 30-yard downfield run. And now Shaquan is going against a defensive back, which is what all these guys are. They're modified defensive backs playing linebacker. Look at their heights and weights, folks. They're all of them 6'2", and none of them are over 225 pounds, Pete.
Right. No, it's a real problem. And that's where these GMs, I think, are fools. They're fools because they pay too much money for receivers when there's so much depth in receiver. You know where we've got a lot of depth this year? Running back. These running backs, many of them are pretty damn big, John. They're bigger than a lot of these linebackers. They might weigh 225, 230 pounds or more, and they're going to run over these guys. Like you said, they're basically strong safeties. That's been a mistake for a while, and that's another reason why I think the coach at Detroit is brilliant, because a couple of years ago, I think it's 2 years ago now, Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. Johnny's 6'5", 255 pounds. He's a linebacker. He plays linebacker. And oh, by the way, he runs close to a 4.6 anyway. So if you've got the speed and you've got the size, you've got yourself a piece for stopping the running game. But you know what? Not very many GMs are smart enough to figure that out. So that's why Saquon Barkley ran for over 2,000 yards. It's why Derrick Henry, who's a monster, can run for 2,000 yards. And there will be more running backs coming into the NFL that have got the size to be able to run over these guys that are playing linebacker, but they're really safety. So I agree with you. I'll jump on this one next. I got one more for you.
All right.
Major League Baseball. So last year, the Mets, $317 million on the payroll. You know who's behind them? The Yankees, $308 million on the payroll. You know who's behind them? The Los Angeles Dodgers, $266 million. This year, they flipped it a little bit because now Los Angeles just keeps on signing guys, John. I don't know how long they're going to be able to do this, but $321 million on their payroll. The Mets are $315, Phillies $279, and New York Yankees are $277. So a lot of money going into there. You know who was in the playoffs last year? Most of those teams. You know who else was there? Cleveland, Kansas City, Baltimore. 105 million, 122 million, and 109 million. How's the return on investment for those guys? I'm telling you, John, money doesn't always matter. And you and I are money guys. But in this case, it doesn't always matter, because just take a look in baseball, how often you're going to see some of the highest paid, yeah, they're going to be there. And some of the lowest paid, they've got the right guys, they've got the right coaching, they got it all done, and they get to the playoffs too, and they make a deep run. So I think it's pretty interesting to see when you've got $200 million more for those guys. I don't know. I think some of these guys have figured it out in a much better way than the guys that have all the money in their pockets in New York.
Well, of course, I'm going to agree with that, Pete. But I will say Major League Baseball, MLB, is one of the only of the big sports, one of the only ones that does not share revenue. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're on the Sunday night baseball game on ESPN, yeah, they share revenue for that game. But if you're the Yankees and you have the Yes Network, if you're the Dodgers and you have your own network and so forth, how do the Minnesota Twins compete with that? Yeah. How does the Cincinnati Reds, which I know one of the owners very well, how do they compete? And the answer is they got to be willing to lose money. Yeah. Because they can't. Without the shared revenue from TV, you're going to have the haves and the have-nots. And every once in a while, with Moneyball kinds of creativity, you will see a team like Oakland, which was, of course, the Moneyball team. Now they're Las Vegas. But you'll see a team like that can win. But you're not going to see them win repeatedly. You're going to see them put together a season. Everybody figures out, oh, what did these guys do? What did Theo Epstein do? What did this general manager do? And then it's the edge goes away for something like a Moneyball type thing. And meanwhile, you've got an extra 75 mil a year in your pocket, maybe it's more, that those guys don't have. That's not fair. It's not right. Sooner or later, baseball will have to address it, or they will go bye-bye.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree. Yep.